as I say, shouldn't use that. But it was a class, the Enigma machine was a class in Germany. If you go back and look at the old newspapers, you'll see in Germany there's this class that you can take for, I believe it lists the price as $350 or something like that, but it's probably pounds equivalent or something like that. But basically, it's a fair amount of money. It's like the price of a house or a car or something. It's pretty expensive, really. I might have had a discounted thing. I think there was for straight A students. I had a couple options for ways for people, if they were really good students and really smart, that they could get in and do the Enigma machine if they showed a qualification for communications and stuff like that. So it was offered, I think it was offered maybe, I mean, equivalently back then it would probably be about $12 or something like that, maybe 8. I don't know. It was a communications class, and it was kind of like standalone where people, just the public, could take it. And it was offered somewhere around 1880 or 1900 or 1860, 1880, somewhere around there, or 1900. And it was offered to the public. And first time I actually had the communications thing as part of my military or whatever. But around 1900, 1910, I was offering it to the public for a price, basically. And otherwise, it was part of the whole sub school. The my school, my submarine submersible school, used to be for military service. Used to be kind of spread out, where the communications building was in one part, or school was in one part. It was a whole school dedicated to nothing but communications. And then there was a sub pens and stuff like that. And then there was some other parts. And if you joined the service, which meant a lifelong commitment to service, you would learn lots of stuff like hand-to-hand combat, I believe, and also practice with firearms. And it was more of it wasn't really, it's not like today where you have like a base and like nobody comes in, nobody goes out. It was like more like just like you could go to a town and you'd see all these people wandering around, and they'd be going to school or doing this or doing that. Germany had a very high level of education. And so if you joined the service, you would start out in one place and you would start out training and stuff like that, getting fit, stuff like that, eating right, and I believe some schooling. It was a very long commitment to service in Germany. Was a very, 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 very long uh, progress thing. And basically, you'd go to school, and about a year in or 2 years in, if you showed a qualification for something like communication or sub work or whatever like that, we would start directing you in a certain direction. And you would I think you would go out on a sub for a while, and see if you liked it. And if you liked it and you really wanted to join, then basically you would go back to school some more, and eventually you would be directed to like either the communications office or some other place, and you would get joined up and be given options to pay or join or whatever like that. Most people did just went ahead and joined and dedicated themselves to a lifelong commitment to military service. And it was a very long thing, and they had to study very hard. They had to do a lot of math, and they had to do a lot of other stuff and research things. And commitment to service in Germany it was honor, it was duty, it was everything, and they were the best. And with Enigma machine especially, you learned how to use it and everything else like that. But it was very old by the time 1880, like I say, it came out in 1700 or 1800. Basically, it was new. And I fitted on some of my subs, and they used it. And I think some part of it was semi-digital, where it could transmit. I think it was the very, very, very. The Enigma machine was the very, very, very start of the digital era. We were doing just like telegraph, kind of like with the radio, but with the growing number of communications that were being made, we couldn't use the old system anymore because there are overlapping communications and stuff like that. So we needed a way of making channels, and I think we'd found a way. Original radios didn't really have channels, and then later on, we did get more channels, something like that with the old knobs. I mean, there's this whole revolution that happens between 1700 and 1800 in communications and basically the radios, pretty much. and where we have certain bands for music and everything else, and then certain bands are for what's called, the old radios could pick up almost any signals. So people could listen in to sub communications and all that kind of stuff, and that was kind of like becoming a problem because the civilian people were, eavesdropping on all our operations. So we needed some sort of way to actually do like, so they didn't know everything that we were doing because our ships were getting raided by pirates. So we switched over to the Enigma machine. Enigma actually means question machine, but whatever. Or explanation point. I think Enigma might mean explanation point. I'm not exactly sure. Exactly. I forget. You'd have to go back to old Germany and figure it out and look throughout the papers and all that. But you would see it. It classified under communications in Germany. There's a class for like $12 or $8 or something. It might have been $4. I don't really know how much it was, but it was a lot back then. And it was offered I think, well, I mean, I just had it the whole time, and then later on, like I say, I thought, well, maybe somebody else will want to do it, so I offered it to the public, and I didn't think anybody would actually do it. I mean, it would have to be for people who really wanted to learn communications, and so a lot of women wanted to do it and stuff like that, and I liked women anyway, so I let them in, let them do that, and like John McCain and all the others, they were trying to get information and stuff and all that. Anyway, though, but the Enigma machine was 80 years old or 150 years old by the time 1990 rolled around, or 1980. I mean 1900 rolled around. So, and like by 1930, it was like a dinosaur. Like we had long since gone to digital, and we still use some part of the Enigma machine with the way it does the code or something like that. Only the Enigma machine would do it physically. And radio, and it did get hooked up. It didn't just sit on a desk. The old one sat on a desk, and then you go to the telegraph or whatever, or the radio, and basically then communicate. But the newer ones, you would just press a key, and it would automatically send the signal out on the radio signal that I think you were tuned to, and that's how it worked. It worked like a machine. You just go click, and it would just send it out. And the people pressing the buttons wouldn't know. I think you would have to know the code. I think, like the people would send out the code, and then the other people would read it or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, it's old stuff. I mean, really, really old stuff, especially to me. I knew all about it back in the day, but now it's like I'm trying to remember. Trying to remember what I used to know about it. I mean, we developed it, we invented it, I paid for it, I put it on my subs, and then later on it was way outdated and sitting in a museum, or actually in the school. It was in the school in a glass case. And somewhere around 1930 or so, it was stolen, or 1910, it was stolen out of the school. They broke in and stole it, and it's like, I don't know why they'd want that. And even my guys were like, I don't know why they'd want that, it's really old, we don't even use those anymore. Oh well, But civilian communications, you couldn't really, you couldn't really, what's called, I mean, if you're a civilian, you didn't have any kind of coded messages or anything like that. So for the civilian thing, it was kind of like one of those, like, it was a pirated thing, where like, if they wanted to be, they were civilians but wanted to do codes, they would want to have the Enigma machine, which was really, 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 really old at the time. We had already gone to the digital system and everything else like that long since by the time they ever got it, by 1910 or 1920. So anyway, I think it was like actually 1920 or 1910 when they first got it. But I'm going to say the sub course, what they didn't realize is when they joined the service and they were in the sub course, there were 3 subtypes that were civilian use that I was just using as my sub military training. And then after the 3 subs, after you graduated from the 3rd sub, then you would go to the real military and you'd go to what we really had. So, but before that, you wouldn't even know. You would think that was a service, but it's not the service. It's actually just a school.